Hey everyone, it's Chris. This is going to be episode 3 of my Magicians Season 1 overview. You can find episodes 1 and 2, which cover episodes 1 through 7 of the first season, linked in the description. If this is your first time here, I take shows and movies based on books and compare and contrast them to the source material. Also, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of my future videos, and click the notification icon to join the notification squad, as it were, and be the first to know when something new drops. Warning, there may be spoilers ahead, since I discuss what happens in the TV show and compare it to the book, and sometimes that reveals things down the road or changes in the show that might actually spoil things for you in the future. So if you don't want to see that, now's the time to stop the video. I'm going to go quickly through each episode and highlight key moments and characters that are different in the show than in the books. So in this video, we'll be covering episodes 8 through 10. Almost done with season 1, guys. First up, for episode 8, we have Eliot and Mike. Since Eliot is one of my favorite characters on the show, I loved and hated this storyline. He is one of the most complex and interesting characters in the show, as well as in the books, so it was a real joy to see his character explored a bit more, not to mention to give Hale Appleman a chance to really shine, because he's a fantastic actor. That being said, having to watch him find someone to really care about, who seems to care for him, and then to have that person betray you in the most profound ways, intimately as well as personally, is just cruel and crushing. I mean, we don't even know what part of what was happening was real or not, and neither does Eliot, and just that uncertainty, that unknown, having to carry that around with you for the rest of your life is just tremendous. But it was another chance to see why Eliot is the character he is. So I was excited to see this new story added to the show. Next up, we have Julia in Rehab. This was a great twist on the story from the novels. In the books, she finds an online support group, free trader Beowulf, that she joins to find help. The group itself is really interesting as well. Basically, you have to be a super genius, and depressed to join. You are forced to solve puzzles and riddles, which get you closer and closer to joining the group as they increase in difficulty. They approach the storyline a bit differently in the show, obviously, as Julia is checked into a rehab program and meets Richard, the chaplain, who is also a graduate of break bills, because apparently they're everywhere. I prefer the rehab angle of the show, honestly, but I do miss the storyline of Julia having to conquer her way into the online group. It was another moment to see just how formidable she really is, and again, I feel like she is cast as a victim much too often in the show, which is a shame for her character. And finally, we have the death of Jane Chatwin. The only thing I liked about this was the ending moment, when you get to see a glimpse of the steel that lives beneath Eliot's expertly coiffed exterior. This was a massive change from the novels, and not really one that made much sense to me, other than it serves the narrative of the hero's journey that Q is on. Jane in the novels actually lives until the very end of the story, and has some pretty impressive feats that I'm not sure we will be able to see now, due to her untimely demise at the hands of her brother, and, that's a shame. Okay, episode 9. First up, we have the Missing Manuscript. While the manuscript does go missing, it isn't stolen, destroyed, and then, trashed by Penny, although I think that does make things funnier. The manuscript disappears and then reappears after Q has many adventures. The story it tells is a little bit different too. There are a number of buttons given to the Chatwins by a group of talking rabbits as a gift for helping them on a quest. The buttons were thrown down a well on the Chatwins' property because one of the Chatwin children felt like it was a cheat, and that's not okay. One of the buttons is found by Jane, and she uses it to get Quentin and the others into Fillory by giving it to Penny, who discovered it allowed you to travel between worlds, and then ropes in Q and the rest of the Scooby Gang. Next up, we have visiting the Plover Estate. This was another bit that wasn't in the books, but was really a welcome addition in my opinion. They do get over to England and visit the Chatwin estate, I believe, now owned by another family, and they use it to get into Fillory again. But the whole thing with Plover's sister and the children wasn't in the novels at all. And especially the bits with Martin and Plover weren't in the novels. They basically explain that Plover was emotionally and physically abusing Martin, which incidentally is why Fillory stopped calling Martin, but they didn't actually go into it in great detail and graphic detail like they did in the show. Also, using the Storm Cellar as a replacement for the well was pretty smart, and gave this particular storyline a really great ending. And the last 4 minutes of the episode are just amazing. Hats off. Okay, and lastly, we're going to look at episode 10. Starting with the Neitherlands, or the Neitherlands, or maybe it's neither or neither of those things. One of my favorite creations from the books are the Neitherlands, and they really didn't disappoint in the show, even though basically nothing about the place in the show is actually the same as in the novels, except for the fountains. From the fact that there are plants living there, to the way the Order of Librarians operate, nothing really is the same. In the novels, the Neitherlands is a vast concrete jungle full of fountains and plazas filled with books of magic that you could not get to. Magic doesn't work correctly there either, which means you can't even do small bits of magic without it going absurdly out of control. So, amazing execution of the idea in a way wildly different than the source material. Next up, we have Free Trader Beowulf. This was pretty cool, if very different from the way it happens in the novels. In the novels, Julia discovers after a while that some of the members are hedge witches, which then leads to her joining them at a chateau in France to learn more magic. While there, she learns all the remaining magic that has been kept from her, getting to, I believe, level 250, at which point she learns that all magic to know as a hedge witch, she already knows, and the only thing left is exploring new and more exotic types of magic, which is where, consequently, Our Lady of the Underground comes in. Oh, and Katie wasn't a part of the group at all because she was, made up for the show. And next we have Quentin, Alice, and the Fountain. I mean, come on. This was just ridiculous, funny, and kind of nonsensical all at the same time. It was another interesting moment of growth for Quentin and Alice, which does not have a counterpart in the novels. As I've said before, they just kind of, for all of how slow and kind of plodding in some ways the first book was, as good as it was, because it was a good book, he just glossed over their relationship, didn't really devote much time to how it developed and grew, or did not. Just kind of they had a relationship and then it got broken. I just it's just weird that he didn't spend a lot of time with it, and I like that they are spending more time on it in the show. That being said, what I find interesting is that this makes what is coming for their relationship even more of a gut punch than it was in the novels. I don't want to say too much about it now, but rest assured we'll cover it when we get to that episode. Also, the look on Penny's face when he sees them is pretty much priceless. So, kudos all around to the writers, actors, everybody. Great job on that. And lastly, we have Denizens of the Neitherlands. Real quick here at the end, this was a pretty interesting change for me that we see while in the Neitherlands. People who are revealed to be native to that place. In the novels, the Neitherland is basically the grand central station of interworld travel, and as such, doesn't really have the means to support life, let alone a culture or a society. Adding this was interesting, although I'm not sure if it adds anything substantial to the story going forward, but, it's kind of cool. Okay, that is it. We are careening very quickly to the end of season 1, which is super exciting. Next week, I will obviously on Monday, release the last season 1 video, and then that means on Friday of next week, we will begin the first of the season 2 compare and contrast videos, which is super exciting because season 2 is pretty amazing. That's it for me, folks. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. That's cool with me. Comment if you have any questions. Share the video, obviously, if you want to help get the word out about the magicians on my channel. And I will see you guys again in the next one. Thanks a lot.